if we can get him. Oh, there he is. Mark
All right.
Willard in the house.
What's going on?
He just cracked a Sunkist.
Yeah, no.
Oh, no. What is that?
This is a 49er red or blood orange sparkling water. This is how I party, man. This is how I get down.
Mark, good to see you, brother. This came down. I was laying on the couch watching Lakers Clippers. I was starting to doze off. My daughter's like, Dad, you need to go live.
Yeah.
The 49ers just traded for Christian McCaffrey. And I'm like, no. And then all of a sudden my phone started blowing up, and here we are. We've been live streaming. We got 500, almost 600 people in the room. People are fired up. Give me your perspective, Mark. You've been following the Niners for years. You're a lifelong Bay Area sports fan. Give us the breakdown. What was your first? Did I tell you, by the way?
No, well,
okay.
I get sort of. So but not really, because similar to you, like the Thursday night football game was starting to put me to sleep.
Right.
I kind of dial out. I go in the other room. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go just kind of dial out from screens and go get a little quiet time in the bedroom. And I come out, and the football game is just ending, and we sort of hear Carissa Thompson say something about Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers.
Same thing.
I go, wait, wait, I had heard the rumors. Tim Kawakami had written the article a few hours ago, and I go, Kawakami's not writing that unless he knows. I could tell when I read the article, if you guys saw it in The Athletic this afternoon.
No, I didn't see it. What?
Yeah,
did he hint towards it?
What's that?
Did he hint towards this trade going down?
He was basically like, look, they're kind of becoming the favorites, and I feel like this has got a shot, but he's sort of like, they'll wait it out, and maybe a third and a fifth, and it could fall their way. And so I'm sitting there going, he's not writing this unless somebody gave him like a nod, like this may go down. I didn't think it would happen that fast. But so then I hear that and I go, wait, what's going on? I go to get my phone. I literally had been away from my phone for 10 minutes. There were 33 text messages and you were one of them. So you are one of 33 people who tipped me off, if you want to put it that way.
Give us your breakdown. What do you think? I mean, I don't know if you saw the details. It's a 2, 3, 4 next year. It's a fifth of the year after. I was listening to you and Dibs, and you guys were talking about this, and I think maybe you had commented on Twitter a day ago, like somebody had said, hey, it's going to take multiple ones. And you're like, all right, that's a deal breaker kind of a thing.
So Schrager said that on NFL Network the other day. And my comment was that was clearly from the Panthers. Like the Panthers were putting that out there because there's no way anybody's going to do that with the injury history, the contract, the this, that, the other. But you started to see the handful of teams where this potentially would make sense. The Bills, the Chiefs, 49ers, and the Rams are the four that sort of were spotlighted in my mind. And I wonder if the presence of the Rams and what happened with Matt Stafford the year before was not resonating in the brains of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch on this one, because the last thing they want to do is get beat to the punch again to a game-changing player and have it go within the division and then therefore now have the division. I mean, how awful would it have been? Let's say this Sunday doesn't go well. You're 3-4. You've got to beat the Rams. And suddenly Christian McCaffrey is on the other side of the line of scrimmage at SoFi Stadium next week. I don't think the 49ers were willing to stomach that. And the bottom line is they really, what did they actually give up here? A second-round draft pick, sure. The third-rounder, no big deal. DeMeco Ryans going to get a gig. They're going to get two more third-rounders out of that. Replenishes that whole thing. Fourth rounder, whatever. The way I look at this, they gave up a 2. And you do that for Christian flipping McCaffrey.
Is there any downside to McCaffrey's game? Because I see it as like, okay, if you think you're going to use him as your bell cow between the tackle back, then you're probably putting him in harm's way. He's probably going to get hurt. He's kind of proven that he's not Derrick Henry. He's not Nick Chubb, right? And fantasy football fans have kind of experienced that. He spent a lot of time injured. But the 49ers, Mark, have Wilson and Elijah Mitchell and J.P. Mason and Tevin Coleman. They have the other backs to take those carries between the tackles, and they can use this guy as the jack of all trades. And to me, it seems like a player with this skill set, and then Kyle Shanahan's creativity. I just think that this is not just the right player. I think it's the right player in the right offense at the right time.
I don't use any doubt, and everybody worries about injuries. The 49ers are the most injured team again, and we know McCaffrey's history. But if you look at it the way you just detailed it, it's kind of like he comes in and it takes the pressure off of everybody. You don't want to use him the way Carolina used him, but you also probably don't want to use Debo the way you've used Debo. And so now you can do a little bit of both, and you do have depth at the running back position. Look, if Christian McCaffrey misses a game or two later in the year, it's okay. You do have Eli Mitchell. You got Jeff Wilson. I do find it interesting that in back-to-back years you've used a top 3-round pick on running backs, and then you make a move like this, right? We forget about TDP, who we haven't seen a whole lot of, and then you make a move like this, and this is a guy who's under contract for 3 more years after this one. So you are sort of jettisoning whatever it was you were doing at the running back position. You are now suddenly saying, we've got a dude and he makes money. Those are the two things that they've never done. But again, I just think it's opportunistic. It's reactionary to what the Rams did last year. And it's realizing that this guy in this system, you put McCaffrey on one slot and Debo in the other. I don't, as a defense, you're up a creek before the ball's even snapped.
We're talking to Mark Willard, 95.7 The Game. Catch him and Dibs every morning on 95.7 The Game. They do a great job. I was sitting in for Rado, and we had Michael Irvin on with Damon. And Michael Irvin made the statement, I think it was last Monday, that in his mind, it's the Niners, the Eagles, and the Cowboys in the conference, and everybody else need not, don't be concerned with anybody else. Do you subscribe to that? Or to that theory? What do you think? I mean, I love this move because I think the Niners are in their window, and I think the NFC is pretty thin. But I don't know that I would agree with Irvin on that.
Well, I think in terms of a projection forward, I do agree with him, and here's why. It doesn't mean that there aren't other players. The Buccaneers will have to be dealt with. I don't know if the Packers will figure themselves out. The division though feels incredibly winnable. But here's why I do sort of subscribe to what Irvin's saying. If you look around the NFC and you look at the history of the game, if you've got a really good, if you've got a top 5 defense, you're a playoff team. You're going. And so right now, no matter what, teams will be in sync, out of sync. The Cowboys and the 49ers are the two scariest teams because they have the 2 best defenses. Philly is tracking toward right now the inside track to be the 1 seed, and their defense, while not devastating, is good. It's also pretty good, and Jalen Hurts is playing some really good football. So right now the 49ers aren't playing like a top 3 team, but if we all project some health, some breaks, now the acquisition of Christian McCaffrey, if I'm looking at it instead of the record and everything we've seen, who scares me? If I'm a team that I don't want to play that team in January, I would agree that those 3 teams scare me the most. They're the hardest to score the ball on.
Danny, Rye, if you got a question for Mark or you want to, throw something his way, we got him here probably for a few more minutes before he calls it a night. And Willard, I appreciate you jumping on with us, man. It's always good to talk sports with you, man.
I've always wanted to be one of these people who could scream "emergency pod" and then run to their computer. So this qualifies.
Oh yeah, no, I like your point with I was making the point before you jumped on, Mark, about the Niners having such deep drafts last year and this year that they've got guys on the practice squad on the offensive line and Poe and Zakel and then they were so deep that they got rid of Hasty and Sermon that they don't need all those draft picks next year. They only need a couple of picks, and they're getting, like you said, they're going to get 2 third-round compensatory picks for Ryans, and then they've got a 5th, a 6th, and a 7th. They've got plenty of. It's all they need.
Yeah, well, and you could even joke about it and say the 5th, 6th, and 7th is where they get all their guys anyway.
Exactly.
So just keep picking those squad, your 1s, 2s, and 3s. And then beyond that, I think about it this way too, even though we all love the versatility of a rookie contract. So you don't have to worry about the money too much. But if you think about it now, let's say they do keep McCaffrey. We don't have the financials yet, but that's 11.8 basically for the next 3 years after this one.
Right.
If you're now suddenly going to put money into that position, which you haven't done before, and we know that there's a big bag about to await Nick Bosa. They just did what they did with Debo, Kittle, Warner. Like, you don't want, in theory, to be paying first-round draft picks because that's more that you need to fit into this calculus here. And again, as I think most of us have agreed for a while, if you can sort of figure out the quarterback position and how to score points on this team, I mean, they got the rest of the roster figured out. You know what I mean? Like right now, you add McCaffrey, and the only thing that this team really would need if you were to go get more players, I think another reliable offensive lineman or two is really all that this roster needs, and then it just needs to be blessed with help.
I was thinking that on the offensive line. What do you think, guys? Since Carolina's kind of selling everything, it looks like their center Bradley Bozeman's a free agent after this year. Is he an upgrade over Brendel? I mean, he's pretty middle of the pack.
I don't know. It might be marginal also because like the center position in Kyle's offense, you do kind of have to.
It's hard to know. Yeah, that's hard to know.
Larry, I know you're down on Brendel, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, Brendel had a terrible game, and I just feel like there's better guys already on this team. I think Poe could be better. I think Zakel could be better. I don't think they'll go all year. Poe? Yeah, we got a guy. Kamoko Ture, Willard was telling us in the locker room today. We asked him, "Who's the funniest guy in the team?" And he's like, "Man, it's Poe." And then we he said it loud, and Poe started laughing. So we're going to do a thing with Poe. No, but I this to me is a really, really smart move because it gives the 49ers a more dynamic offense without. Jimmy doesn't throw the deep ball particularly well, and they have offensive tackle issues. And so they have a burner in Danny Gray, just they can't really get it to him. And they have vertical threat in Ray McCloud, and his ball skills are kind of questionable, and they may struggle to get it to him. They're not going to struggle to get the ball to Christian McCaffrey. And I also like it because you're competing against Buffalo. How good is Buffalo? You don't want Buffalo getting this player. You don't want the Rams getting this player. You really don't want the Chiefs getting this player. I'm not sure the Chiefs were even after this player, but this is a difference-making type of player for the 49ers. So I like it. And I like the fact that Shanahan and Lynch are not afraid to make this commitment. I got to ask you, though, Mark, because I listened to 95.7 religiously now that I'm filling in there. And you guys have been talking a ton this week about Harbaugh and Shanahan. And I know Grant Cohn put out that whole who's the better coach and this and that. But I just think that the 49ers are very sensitive to that whole dialogue. And you got Harbaugh rolling in this weekend. And the narrative was going to be about, the Niners and the Chiefs being the game of the week in the NFL. But I think it's partly, especially if the Niners lose, going to be partly about Shanahan versus Harbaugh. Now, I think this deal, they didn't make this deal because of that. But I think kind of an extra bonus of this deal is that I think this now becomes the central focus for sure over anything like that.
Listen.
And I think the 49ers are thrilled by that. But I wanted, because you're a great person to ask Mark about your sense of the market and how people are feeling. What kind of responses did you guys get throughout the week on the Harbaugh Shanahan, invariable comparison with him coming back to town?
Right. I mean, and our show didn't really dive into it too much until today. But certainly tapped into what everyone was saying on our feeds and our text lines and everything. And I think two things. I think first off, whenever you're comparing a current coach to a past coach, the past coach has an advantage because they're not in the middle of the emotions of what happened last week. You know what I mean? And so We always remember people for their best stuff. Like we don't remember the drama that Jim Harbaugh brought. We don't remember that Jim wears us out. We don't remember Colin and Alex and Jim Schwartz and all that. And when we do remember it, we just sort of chuckle at it. So I think there were a lot of people that were sort of leaning Harbaugh because even though they both kind of have gotten to the same point, they've gone the same distance, which was to the Super Bowl and lost. People will remember Harbaugh just kind of for the positive, and you don't have to go and, with Shanahan, it's like, and last week they couldn't score points in the second half. So there's some positivity with Harbaugh that isn't there with Shanahan. But the big takeaway that I think people got, which I thought was unfair, is a lot of people said Harbaugh gives you on the sideline what Kyle doesn't. You slapping Alex Smith's shoulder pads and making facial expressions. And just there's an energy there. You and I, we've had this conversation about the Giants for years, the Brandon Crawford and Brandon Belt and Buster Posey. It's like, is there any energy there? But I thought it was an unfair conversation because I'm like, first of all, I think Kyle is better liked in the locker room than Jim Harbaugh ever was, number one. And number two, why would I want Kyle Shanahan to be jumping up and down and going crazy on the sideline if that's not authentic? Like, that's not him. Exactly. And a team will see through that right away. So that's Jim, and he can get away with it because he's a crazy person. And it's not Kyle. And there's like literally zero data that says if you're more fiery, you win more. Tony Dungy won a Super Bowl, right? He doesn't swear. So that was kind of the takeaway, though. And I did think it was a little bit unfair. They both did really good things that were not expected with the roster they took over. But if you're asking me right now who I would want going forward, if you could have either, it would be Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is that the real discussion is, could Kyle beat Ohio State if he was at Michigan? That's really
Mark Failer donates $9.99. He says, first off, another 20 of you can guess who my avatar is. Who's that avatar? So he says, secondly, Steiny and JD posed the question earlier today on 95.7 The Game. Who would the faithful rather have behind the wheel, Harbs or Shanahan? So it's a salacious topic. I don't blame anybody.
Is that supposed to be Terry Bradshaw? Who is that? Who's his avatar?
I have no idea who
I don't
that
know.
is.
Mark, you recognize Mark Failer.
The guy's got a great tan. I'll give him that.
But I'm just getting over. I had my thing on my screen on the wrong chat anyway. I was in the private chat, Okay, I see it now. No, I do not recognize that.
No, I don't either.
I think I'm going Terry. Wild guess, Terry Bradshaw.
No, it looks like Sean Connery or something.
Willard, you're dead on, because that's the thing. It's like, okay, everybody from the outside perspective is looking at, they want to see the rah-rah on the sideline. Everyone remembers, Vernon Davis crying and running over to Harbaugh and whatnot. And that's all great. I still think Harbaugh's a great coach. Yep. But to me, the most important thing, and we had Matt Miyoko on talking about it, or we didn't know Matt Barrows on talking about it. And what he was saying is, we were asking him about the difference between this locker room and like the Harbaugh years and all the other years he's covered it. He said, this is the best locker room. It's not even close. This is the best locker room that they've had. All the guys in there, and we can attest to it being in there, they're all super nice, super courteous, no off the field stuff. They clearly are running a specific program. They're getting specific guys. And I think that's like the thing that nobody sees that actually is the most important, where that locker room is so healthy right now. It is crazy healthy.
I got some off the record or heard of some off the record comments from Joe Staley just a couple years ago. And he's like, Kyle's the man. Like, that's how that team sees Kyle Shanahan. And Joe was there for Jim. And I don't think that too many of the players felt that way about Jim. And look, how your players feel about you is only one aspect of coaching. I get that we're here for results. But, both of them, by and large, gave results. They both changed the culture. They both turned around a roster that had all kinds of holes. It took Kyle a little bit longer, for sure. I get that Jim's record was better, but we're here now. And I just think when people look at Kyle Shanahan, look, I'm frustrated too when I see you get the ball with 10 and a half minutes to go and you're down by 14 and you pull out a cigar and a smoking jacket and just start lollygagging down the field. That didn't make sense to me either. But the bigger picture is people forget where this team was when Kyle took it over. He's done a really good job.
I was critical too the other night when we were on Sunday night about that last drive. Where's the hurry up? I read it. I don't know if you saw Tim Kawakami's article in The Athletic about that drive, but very interesting point he made. He felt like maybe Kyle was kind of almost like saying, given the game and saying, I can't afford to get any more guys on defense injured by giving them the ball back. Because the defense was so gassed and so depleted, it was like,
you're saying he wasn't going for the win on that ninth drive?
Well, he was.
I'm throwing a challenge flag
Kami's
there.
point was
exactly.
was that they're going to try and win if they get, score and then get the ball back. But he wasn't going to try and hurry up based on. He was saying that the Niners play for the future. They're not playing. They're playing the long game, and I thought it made a lot of sense because they were already dropping guys that day already. They lost Ward. Now it's like, who else can you afford to lose going into the heart of your, they got to win one of these next two. They have to.
Yeah. Well, actually they're in really good shape as long as they win one of these next two, I think. Yeah. Did you all catch the comments? I'm sure you did, from Jaquaski Tart with regard to basically maybe the problem is that they're running these guys too hard, hitting too much.
It's funny. I mean, it's funny. We were in the locker room today, Mark, and Matt Barrows. We were standing right next to George Kittle, and Matt Barrows asked Kittle about Tart's soundbite, and Kittle, who's pretty honest, but he's also a team guy. But he said, "Hey, I felt like we had a good camp. I think that that the coaching staff here protected our bodies." He's like, there are some teams that have like 100 play scripts. The most we ever had was 30 plays. And he made like several points that we got the soundbite that we'll play at some point, but he made several points that he felt that the 49ers, at least under Shanahan, that the coaching staff does protect their bodies, and that what basically pushing back on what Jaquaski was saying. So,
well, and he's still on the team, and he's also a physical freak nut job who loves to truck people he'd rather block than catch. So if if there's someone who's going to back Kyle on that, I would expect that. I'm not dismissing what he's saying as untrue.
Right.
I just think, look, if you're going to be in the bottom third of the league in injuries every year under your reign, it would at least, I don't know, it'd be worth it to look at doing something a little differently, don't you think?
Yeah.
Well, there's another theory out there too, regarding the way they play, the type of athletes they have are fast, super, super fast. And they just like run to the ball like crazy. And then when they have to stop fast, sometimes you pull these muscles, these hamstrings, these growing muscles, and a lot of that.
And sometimes, Danny's point is right as far as the speed of the game. I mean, Ryan and I went up to Dre Greenlaw yesterday, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on, man? How you feeling?" Because he's got the elbow wrap pretty tight, and
he's sweet, by the way.
He's got the big old dip going, the Grizzlies, like it's in my Grizzly, But he looked kind of sore, and so I'm like, man, how's the body feeling? He's like, man, not good. He's like, not good, and makes sense, Mark, because the guy's made like 30 tackles in the last 2 weeks or whatever, 35 in the last 3 weeks, whatever it was, and all of that contact. I mean, we're watching it and we love seeing it, but there's bruises and pain that goes along with playing this sport if you're fast and there's a lot of contact. I would say the only thing I could say about the 49ers and injuries is that Shanahan likes speed, especially in his backs. He's not worried about the backs that run kind of upright. That's why he had a Raheem Mostert. And if you have backs that run upright and they've got a lot of speed and you like to run it a lot, those are high speed collisions with guys who are taking big hits, who are pretty fast. That means they're probably not that big. I think that has a lot to do. Because they go through let's be honest, they go through a can of backs every year. Yep. And a lot of it is because there's high speed collisions there. So I think if there's anything that can be pointed to that kind of makes sense, it's maybe that. Other than that, I can't really I don't think it's about how they practice on Wednesdays or Thursdays or how much rest time they have. Or I really don't buy that.
Hey, Mark, I have a question for you before you have to get going. So as a guy who's, obviously you've seen way more football than me, and I really don't know. I watch the game. I'm not some Greg Cosell or anything. So the way that there's always
that's Larry. But anyway, go ahead.
There's trends every year where it's like, oh, okay, now all of a sudden it seems like these offenses can't be stopped. Well, this year all the smarts, I would say in quotes, all the smarts are saying that everybody's playing the two deep safeties. And so everybody's having to, throw everything underneath, and there's not really as many explosive plays. And you're seeing that around the league, and you're seeing why teams like the Patriots with Bailey Zappi or Arthur Smith and Mariota, completing 12 passes. These teams are, just not making mistakes is seems to be good enough. First, do you think that that's going to continue for the rest of the year? And second, bringing up, like we were talking about, the teams you're scared of in the NFC, because the Niners defense is so good, and now adding McCaffrey, it seems like, and I'd like to hear your opinion on this, it seems like the Niners are almost the most well-suited, if this trend continues, to have a strong offense where, all they're doing is throwing it short and running the ball and all that.
Yeah, so TJ Hushmanzada was on the show today, and we asked him this exact same question that you asked, and he gave the answer that you sort of indicated he would give, which is the defensive coordinators have sort of backed off and said, all right, we're going to make you repeatedly beat us. And my best guess right now, and let's use Russell Wilson as the poster child for this, is that too many guys are almost maybe letting their ego stop them from taking what the defense is giving them. Because, and I know there's been 100 of these highlights where you're like, what the hell is Russ doing? But if you saw that one from Monday night against the Chargers, where he's getting pressure from both sides, and he's literally got his slot receiver by himself standing in front of him 10 yards, looks right at him, and instead hucks the ball downfield. And we've watched everybody force, and so many picks in the red zone because it's like force. I don't know if these elite quarterbacks, have this ego where they just can't back off of it. And so you see Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and these guys just not look the same. You would think that actually benefits the 49ers, because over here is Jimmy going like, yeah, I'm fine. Like just 5 yards, whatever.
Quick release, Jimmy.
Yeah, that should bode well for them going forward. And I think to your other question, just sort of like, if this looks like we think it can look, then what I would say out of the NFC, I don't know what the record will be and who knows if they can get there. But if you give me one team in the NFC that has the best chance to play for full 60 minutes with Buffalo or Kansas City, it's the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree.
That I don't know if they can get to their best selves, but we know what the roster looks like. We've seen them, when they've got an elite defense, 3.5 quarters against Mahomes, like they've got a defense that can keep them in the game. And now they've got the offensive firepower, you'd think, to be a big play team that doesn't need to throw it downfield to make big plays. I think that's the blueprint. I think that's what they're going for. We'll see if they get there.
Jaguayo 56 says, here's $2. He says, F the picks. We want to win now. CMC rip the Rams. We also have this one from Mark Failer, 1999. Says, just because I'm a Krueg head, this goes back to my 5 current Sharks question. It's the John Madden of Canada, Don the Legend Cherry Willard. Please, please say the San Jose Sharks.
Well, so now let me understand how your YouTube channel works, even though this is the second time I've been here. Did this person just give you $20?
Yes.
So that this, okay, how much of this $20 do I get if I say that name right there? Do I get a cut?
You might get a Krueg Show T-shirt. I gave one to
professional voiceover person. I don't do this stuff for free. Come on. All right. Yes, I want a T-shirt. The San Jose Sharks. There you go.
There you go. 9 to noon. This guy's as good as it gets. Mark Willard with Dan Dibley. Hey, by the way, I saw you react to my Aaron Judge tweet. You saw that?
Dude, you got to text me. Who is this super fancy? Now, listen, I'm going to take a victory lap if you're right, because I've been trying to tell all the Giants haters in my building. I don't know why they're so activated against Farhan Zaidi, but I've been trying to tell them it's not that I necessarily thought or I'm going to predict that Aaron Judge would come to the Giants. Here's what I said.
Right.
If he leaves New York, he's coming to the Giants.
Absolutely.
I believe.
Okay, so this is what I know. This is what I've heard, and I've got sources. Aaron Judge is at the top of the Giants list,
Yep.
but the Giants are at the top of Aaron Judge's list.
Look, I like what every Giants fan should be hoping for. You've actually seen a lot of clues that would indicate this, which is that Aaron Judge, you are hoping that he is somehow annoyed with how the Yankees handled this early in the season.
Absolutely.
And therefore is simply motivated to not be on that team anymore. I know it's counterintuitive because it's like, who leaves the Yankees? Who leaves that brand?
Right.
But if he's chapped off about the way they handled it, and he might be,
I think
then the Giants are the clear favorite.
There's bad vibe, from what I've been told, bad vibes between Judge and Cashman, bad vibes between Judge and Judge's wife and the New York press, that he wants to be West, that the Giants are his first choice, but sadly the Dodgers are his second choice.
Which actually makes it more likely that the Giants get him, because
the Giants have said they will not be outbid, though.
And the big issue with Judge, from what I've heard, it's twofold. It's how competitive of a team can the Giants put around him in 2023, and there's some concerns about communication with Kapler. That's what I've heard. So, but I've heard that he's their number one choice, and believe it or not, that he's their number one choice, and that they're his number one choice, and that he wants to go West. He's looking to leave New York, but it's going to come down to the Giants or the Dodgers. He'd rather play with the Giants. But the talk is coming out of the Giant thing is that they're not going to get outbid. That they're all in on Judge, and they will not get outbid. Also, and they don't want to play. They don't want to play leverage games. But
by the way, I want to spotlight that comment right there. Romo 2001. The Giants are not one player away from turning this around. You're right, and they know that.
Yes.
Like, I do. The Giants are not going to go get Aaron Judge and be like, "Cool, we did it."
I'd like, since we got Mark on, I would love to talk to you about some of the things with the Giants, because
Danny's our resident Giant guy.
I'm the resident Giant.
We have a record number of people in the room that are here for Christian.
Danny will give you one Giants question for Mark Willard, and then that's it. Then you're gonna have to call him at home.
I'm gonna charge you $19.99 for it. Go ahead.
All right. This is Mark. This is me, Arizona Dan, who used to call your show all the time.
Ask this question and ask it fast.
So here it is. I want to see Brandon Nimmo or Bellinger in center field next year for the Giants, and I also want to see. I think Carlos Correa would be, I love Trey Turner, but Correa would be one of either Turner or Correa. They've got to get. What are your thoughts on adding Correa, Turner, and Nimmo?
I think Cody Bellinger for me would be a hard no. Nemo's a maybe, but I don't feel like they're going to spend a lot for that position if they're also going to get Judge. I do think there will be someone brought in that is significant in the infield. Marco Luciano is not projecting as a shortstop. You can remove that. He's not going to be their shortstop of the future. He's going to either play third, maybe left, maybe DH. So it's a matter of what they feel like they can do with Brandon Crawford. Can he maneuver a little bit? Can you use the DH? Can you get creative? I think Correa is an absolute possibility. Turner, I think they're going to go for it. I just feel like Turner's going to end up back east.
Yeah.
And now we got this one from Mark Failer, $9.99. He says, how much do I need to donate to see Steiny and Willard box Murph and Mac on the next Jake Paul undercard?
I don't know. I mean, come on. Do you remember back in the days of Mike Tyson when fights were over in 30 seconds? Do you really want to pay for that? That would be that would be over fast.
I got to be honest. I think Willard's more of a lover than a fighter, but I think Willard clears that entire room.
And also, Paulie Mack may get popped on the truck. Yes.
Paulie will just be singing a soundtrack to the whole thing. Yeah. All right, guys.
Mark. Hey, man, you're the best, man. Hey, thanks 9 o'clock tomorrow with Dibs. I got to think you're talking this, right? You'll talk a little Warriors Nuggets, but you'll be talking McCaffrey all morning long, huh?
Across the board. Yeah, no, There will not be Draymond can send flowers, right? Shanahan can send flowers because that's all off the table. This is going to be McCaffrey and Chiefs Niners across the board. Call in if you want, man.
All right.